Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Danielle. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. And Ben, nice to meet you too, virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thanks for coming on the show. I'm excited for the conversation today. But before we dive in, we always ask our guests a couple of questions. First and foremost, what do you love about marketing and content? And then second of all, let us get to know your background and a little bit about your work career.
Yeah. What do I love about marketing and content? The creativity. The creativity, hands down. And really I hate to use the word thought leadership so early in this interview, but definitely thought leadership and the opportunity to teach people, to show people that marketing, it really has its place and that you can learn from it, and gain knowledge from it and everything like that. So that's what I do for creating that storyline. I come from a reporter background and a broadcast reporting background. And I left the business because I wanted to create awareness with communities. And then turned out that the news changed the way it did. And I went into marketing, public relations, and advertising, which is the natural transition I've heard for reporters. And I loved and fell in love with the omni-channel marketing campaign strategies and opportunities with that. So yeah, that's what I do for products, services, and brands.
I love it. And I think that background is so relevant and so helpful. And it makes for exciting conversations and a great mixed background for marketers. I think it's really powerful. So for today, I'm excited for this subject. It's something that I think a lot of marketers and salespeople, everyone alike, goes through, and they're all really curious about how do we align a little bit better. So how do we align the marketing team with the sales team, especially when it comes to content? So Danielle, in your opinion, why is this so important? Why do we need to align these two teams when it comes to marketing content?
That is the number one question. That is what a lot of companies struggle with. And I've worked for Fortune 300, Fortune 500 companies. Now I have my own business, which is great. And, some clients, and it's really important to align the sales team with marketing, with your marketing initiatives, campaigns, assets, whatever they may be, especially digital, because marketing is only as good as the sales teams too. So you can't spread the word and then help customers find those answers to those common pain points that keep them up at night by not filling in your sales teams. So you have to create sales scripts. You have to create a storyline behind what these pain points are. And interviewing your sales team. First thing I do when I go into a company or gain a client is interview the sales teams. They know the customers first and the best. So from there, then I study the assets of what the company has already made or anything like that. And I build that strategy. I do corporate strategies and digital and, a nice mix of traditional as well. And really creating that storyline behind everything of what works best. So that's the biggest thing, is to really unify your teams, ask the questions, ask the hard questions, because that will get you the content that you need for your marketing.
I love that last point you just said there. You ask the hard questions. How do you ask those questions? How do you ask the right questions? And how do we maybe become a little bit more okay with difficult answers? Because I think hard questions get hard answers. And how do we really adapt ourselves? So how do I build this new muscle, especially as I'm working with the sales team?
Yeah, I struggled with that in the beginning. I definitely struggled with that in the beginning. And I didn't want to sound dumb, right? And I ended up realizing that, hey, if you start a new job, you have a new client, that is your spot right there to build that knowledge, where you can ask those hard questions and not get any weird looks or anything, So, and a lot of times, which is so common, a lot of times you're in those sales meetings and then they use a lot of industry terminology and you're like, what? So So and then you have to backtrack. So what I like to do is I meet with the managers beforehand and making sure that they're in tune of what I'm going to be asking, right? So you kind of know a heads up of what's going to happen. And then from there, you have like a week or 5 days, whatever, research the products they're pushing, the messages they're pushing out. Timing is everything. You have awareness calendars. You have all of these different things, especially per industry, all that changes. So it's really making sure that you're on the same page before going in there. A lot of preparation. Write your notes, write your questions down. And don't be afraid to ask those hard questions, because at least you'll have that backstory.
So as you're collaborating, it sounds like hard questions, good questions, preparation make a really big impact. How do you gather insights from the sales team to really influence the creation of content, not just the feedback of this is how to make it better, this content's good, this content needs to go away? How do I really start to gain those valuable insights that truly change how and what I write content about?
I've worked for smaller companies that have a very forward-thinking mindset. And then I've worked for Fortune 300, Fortune 500 companies that are still stuck in fax machine days. So it's really showing a change in mindset by I like doing before and afters. This is what you had before. This is a product pamphlet. This is what it could look like after. You give examples. I like, even if it's a PowerPoint slide, a single PowerPoint slide or two, this is what's now. This is the budget needed. This is the message to go across. This is what I can make it. Now, all of a sudden, the gears are turning. So if they don't see it, I've noticed if they don't see it, they don't have an idea, you can explain all the words that you want. It's just going to be forgotten about, really. And I'm big on writing a creative brief or anything like that. But even that gets lost in the mix. You got to really get in front of the right people to make those decisions.
I love that. Showing a little bit more before you're asking for that feedback and insights. Otherwise, the conversation can kind of go anywhere. And I like that you really hone it in and focus on that. You mentioned before kind of shifting gears, thought leadership. And I think this is a really interesting term. And I think a lot of times we're thinking about influencers or people on social media for thought leadership. But when it comes to thought leadership inside of a company, how do you really build that up through a sales team and groups that you're working with? How does that work? How does that function? And really, how should I think about it?
Yeah, thought leadership. So again, I just love saying, when starting a company, because that's where a lot of things start. And it's nerve-wracking anyway, starting with a company or a client. So I am not afraid to, and excuse if this comes off harsh, to rip apart their website and their assets and be like, okay, this is what you have. I can make this. And that's a big thing because you're showing them a strategy. So the thought leadership is actually the psychology behind it, because you're showing them the company, the leaders in the company, whoever it may be, CMO, CFO, anything like that. Even I've worked with CEOs. And that thought leadership is showing in your leadership as a marketer. So then they're kind of less afraid to put you in a thought leadership new mindset, because now you're having to switch over a mindset with the whole company, with the sales team, with internally, with the CEO. So it turns out to be a huge project with that, an undertaking, but it's so doable. If you just do your research, be prepared, and give ideas that resonate with the customers, because changing that mindset of the thought leadership of away from a company centric to a customer centric, as I call the car commercial marketing, call us now, we have the best products, da, 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 da. No, stay far away from those. And it doesn't mean stay far away from the company that does that. It means there's opportunity. So, because they're not there yet and they're looking to be there.
So how are you developing this thought leadership? Obviously, it involves a lot of collaboration and working together. I love this change in mentality for the entire business. I love that you're saying, hey, thought leadership is the name of the game of who we are, what we do, and it's not about us, it's about them and all of that. Let's say that you're working with a company to transition from the old way of doing things to a thought leadership way of doing things. And again, that internal collaboration with departments. How does that happen? I know that's a really vague and big question, not like a great targeted question, but how do you start to wrap your head around that? And what motions do you start to take at the very beginning?
It's literally the interview process. And over time, I get more and more bold, whether it's, again, a client or, a company, and showing what that inbound / thought leadership strategy would look like if they were to hire me, or I would take them on as a client. So that's a big deal, because you don't know what you don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And things like Google algorithms and social media algorithms and all that, they change every 6 to 8 months. It drives me nuts. So, so you have to keep up with that too. And they don't know all that. There's a lot of elements that go into marketing, and it's a lot of moving parts and creating that omni-channel, which is what I specialize in. So it's omni-channel marketing, on really making sure that message is clear and across a whole bunch of different channels to be unified. So that's a big one, with multiple touch points, constantly touching base with the teams, the sales teams and everything. But it doesn't stop after the campaign ends. It keeps going after the campaign, because now you have to make a meeting with the sales team on a feedback. I call it a post meeting for the campaign, and I'll change it up depending on the name, but that feedback is critical and important. What are they hearing from customers? What are they not clear on? So it's a lot of different things like that. And that's where the thought leadership really comes into play, because it's creating assets and then trying to change that mindset. It doesn't just come from the assets. It comes from how you talk to them too. Every time you meet, you drill into it. Thought leadership, not like that though. And just really trying to let them understand, this is an asset, a tool for you. These are all tools. So when you pick up that phone or you make that email, wouldn't that did you know kind of, fact type of thing, or I hate to say, a little bit of a scare tactic will come into play. That will catch, we're bombarded by emails. That would catch their attention. So it's picking up that phone and telling them, really giving them a script on those pain points and how to position every asset.
I love it. You mentioned so much in that. So I'm going to focus in on one part for this next question. You said the word feedback, and you went into that process.
Mm-hmm.
Feedback can be taken, it can be given. Often it's difficult, especially when something didn't go well. How do you kind of build the relationship where it's okay to give feedback, both positive and negative? And how should we take that feedback, especially as we are working internally and aligning, being okay with that feedback? What's a mentality that we should really have there? Yeah,
feedback. I'm going to blame that on my parents, because my parents definitely taught me how to take feedback gracefully. I'm a big positive feedback person, but that's where the silver lining comes in, because you can only learn from feedback. And the point is to break the silos, whether it's a marketing asset, a marketing campaign, or yourself to grow. That's really the only way to do it. So feedback is, hey, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of years where I took it hard, and then you just learn to pick yourself back up, get back on the horse, and just do it better. Even if it's one little aspect to change, do it better. Interview that salesperson again. Find that pain point again. See how you can reword it. And also, just a little tidbit, we have AI now, so leverage that.
Well, as promised, Danielle, these conversations go by so quick. I have learned a ton. I love this mentality of how you look at content, alignment, thought leadership, how to collect feedback. There's a lot to digest from this episode. If anyone wants to further the conversation online, how and where can they find you?
Yeah, definitely. So my business name is Think Marketing Corp. We're based in Long Island, New York, and you can email me anytime. It's Danielle at thinkmarketingcorp.com, and that it's THYNK marketing, because it's the power of why. Uncover the why, craft the story, elevate your brand.
And Danielle will link to everything in the show notes so everyone can find you nice and easy. Again, thank you so much for the time and all the insights today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for everything. This has been great.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.